Okay, so we're sharing our screen and we'll just go to Blockade Labs. Here. So what you can see here is that I have in the upper right corner, once you create an account and log in, it's relatively cheap to buy an account here. Let me just go see if I can find it. So there's a free account that you can get, but it gives you 15 generations, but when you go to download one of them, it tells you that you have to do a paid account to download anything. So it used to be they would actually let you download those 15 different skyboxes with a watermark. Now it won't even let you do that. So it's like a lot of the AI programs out there, generative AI programs. It's a subscription-based online in the cloud software program that's using an AI backend to create the Skybox. And I bought the basic current plan. My current plan is the basic membership, which is $12 a month. So for $12 a month, I get 100 generations and I get some priority, I guess, so it won't take so long to generate. And then I get some of the different styles that you can use. Like I can get 38 sub styles, but you have to get all the styles, you have to be a techno wizard, which is $60 a month. But the $12 a month will get you a lot of different styles of skyboxes. And if you're making 3D worlds, if you're making something in a game engine, you want to be able to get skyboxes. Now you can make skyboxes from scratch. You can stitch together a 360 view and make that into a skybox. Or if you have a 360 camera, you could shoot it with your 360 camera. But what this does is it allows you to type in a text prompt and get a skybox back in a particular style that you choose. And so I would say skyboxes for worlds you're going to generate are like 50% of how that world feels like a 3D place. And so you want a good skybox. Now, a lot of your things are going to be 3D stuff that you put in the world. You'll have a landscape, you'll have trees, you might have rocks, you might have that sort of buildings or ruins or whatever. But the background is going to be some kind of skybox, or it's going to be sort of the generic background sky that Unreal Engine has built into it. So it looks a lot better if you put some kind of skybox in there. It makes it feel like a real place. And if I go to my history for my account, you'll see the different skyboxes that I've created and the prompts that I've used. So for instance, like some of these are interiors, and if I click on this one, for instance, you can see it's got a depth map. It's also got the skybox itself that you can look around and see what each of the sides and the top and the bottom look like. It's a big, I don't really think it's a box. It's more of a dome, smooth dome shape. And these are what's gonna be wrapped on a sky dome inside of Unreal Engine to create this look. And with the scene that we're doing, we're not gonna want it an inside scene. So we're gonna want some kind of outside scene. And you can see that these are actual ones I've used. Let's look at this one. Scottish Highlands heath with wild grass and heather, ancient standing stones and weathered gnarled trees in the distance, gray clouds of impending storm at night as the moon and green northern lights break through the clouds with the orange light of sunrise on the horizon. Super long, but lots of details. And this is what I got. I got some northern lights. I got some sunrise. I got some standing stones and heath, some heather. And this is what I'm actually using for the scene that I'm doing, right? The scene that I've done. And so to make a good skybox, a skybox that you're going to use, you don't want anything too close to you. Like, it's important there's a space. There can be like a rock like that, but I wouldn't want one of these big standing stones to be that close to me, because if it is, what's going to happen is all of this stuff that's on the ground here up into a point, like maybe to right about there, is going to be ground plane inside of Unreal Engine. And I'm going to put real rocks, not real rocks, but, you know, virtual rocks, and a ground that has some waviness to it, and a grass texture on it, and maybe some actual grass or heather or, you know, different kind of plants and things I could put on it. And so this will all be 3D, but then from probably here up, I would want that to be part of the background that, you know, we're not making a game, so that's actually going to be beyond where the metahumans would be standing, right? The metahumans are going to be standing on the ground plane somewhere in this area, and then that's going to be behind them. And so you don't want anything too close, because one, it's going to be flattened on the bottom of the sky dome, and it will look distorted. And then you're going to cover it up with a 3D plane or a 3D landscape that will cut through on a sort of an arc through this skybox. And then you'll see the skybox. And then I'll place some 3D rocks in here, and sort of they'll look like this. And that way it sort of creates a seamless blend between the 3D world and the skybox in the background. It's not that easy to get that by prompting. You know, I think that if I recall correctly, when I was doing this, you see that these all have the same sort of structure. And I think what happened was, yeah, this is what happened. I was doing a bunch of skyboxes and I was getting this. And you notice my prompt is not very detailed there. Scottish Highlands heath with ancient standing stones, weathered trees. Well, it stuck me right next to these big standing stones and trees. Well, that's not going to look right, because that's the center of my world. And there needs to be a little bit of space from where I'm standing, which is like right there, to the first object that comes up high, because Otherwise, I won't have any space to put my metahuman in there. I need actually 3D space away from the center of my world in order to put a metahuman in there. So these were too close. They're not usable for me. And, you know, you can see some other ones here was doing the same things. They're too close. They're better, but it still felt too close. I think that I wouldn't have enough space to create my 3D part right here in the middle. So I wanted to back them up. So what I did was I typed in this prompt. Central Park, grassy lawn with city buildings all around in the distance. All right, so this gets me actually a nice space with all my details and buildings and trees and stuff around the outside. So one of the features of this is that, let's go ahead and view this in the, see, you saw the sky dome there, it was a curved, it's almost like a curved wall, right? It's a cylinder kind of, but it's actually a dome. It comes together at the top. So this is what it looks like inside of the actual editor. I'm not worried about that seam there. Because, you know, when we're doing the wall, we're not actually able to look around. We're just going to fixate on a good view. So if you got a bad view, you're going to put it behind you. It's not like a game where we can look around and see the seam. You will never see it because we're just looking at a static wall. Okay. So what I did with this was I did a remix. So by saying Central Park, I know, I mean, I used to live in New York City, so I know Central Park, it's got these big grassy areas with trees and buildings all around. And so it created exactly that. But now I want those to be Scottish Highland standing stones. So I start with that, and then I go to remix and type in the thing that I actually want. So let's do Scottish Highlands standing stones in the distance with gnarled trees and northern lights, green, northern lights above at sunset. All right, put everything in there and see what I get. And let's try it. Remix this. Now, before I remix it, I want to make sure and see what style I'm using. So that's my prompt right there. And then I want to choose my style. And some of them are going to be grayed out because they're only for techno wizards. But you have realistic, artistic, style pack 3. They all have different things in them. I don't even know what style pack 3 is. Let's see what that is. French comic. You know, if you hover over them, it'll show you an example. Concept render, M3 ink drawing, infrared photo. That's kind of interesting. All right, I don't know what that's going to look like. It's not going to charge me one of my 100s until I download it. So I can try it out. Let's try remixing it. See what an infrared photo looks like for this prompt. Probably not going to use it, but it's kind of interesting to see. Sometimes they come up and they look different than you think they're going to look, and they might actually look good. Okay, interesting. It made it look like snow, or maybe it is snow. So I'm getting the northern lights. I'm getting some stones. They almost look like bushes. I do have some standing stones. But what you can see is it took where the buildings were and the trees became these rocks, and the buildings became these standing stones. But it gave me this space in the middle that I didn't have before. I don't really like this one because it's got too much snow. But I do like the structure of it. So probably if I use create, it's going to give me something completely new every time. And if I use remix, it's going to keep the structure, but it'll give me a new look. So let's try a different look. We'll switch from infrared photo, and we'll do something different. We'll go out of style pack 3 and let's go into realistic, and we'll do cinematic realism. That could be good. Ooh, magic realism. We'll do cinematic realism first. Oh, shoot. I take that back. I'm at 99. Oh, Okay. That changes things. Okay. So that means that no, we can't just test things out on all of them, because then you'll use up all my 99 things. So generations. So the question is, should I download this? Well, actually, it doesn't matter. It's saved into my history, so I can always go get it and download it. But wow, that's okay. That's fine. Just makes it a little bit more important that I choose things that I think I actually want to use. Let's try remixing it again, because I do kind of like this, although I'm not wowed about these stones here. So maybe maybe I'll add a few more things, because I didn't get any gnarled tree. Well, a little bit. So they do have a negative text. And I'm going to type in under negative text, snow. I don't want snow. And you can see it's got other things. It's got like person, people. That means there's no people going to come up in my scene, which I don't. I don't want any people, I don't think, to come up here. Not sure why all of these are in here, but I don't know. I'll leave them. I'm going to put Scottish Highlands heather with standing stones in the distance. And let's try that. I'm going to remix that with cinematic realism and see what that looks like. Now, you don't have to use the exact prompt that I'm using, or I want you to, think about a witch's scene, something scary, something not too cliche, but has to do with I'm putting in Scottish Highlands because Macbeth is supposed to be set in Scotland, right? But you could, and I'm using the word, or I was using Heath, because they actually say Heath. I switched it to Highlands. But you can see that now I'm getting some color. And I could orbit around and say, okay, well, I kind of like that shot right there. And I can take this into Photoshop. I can change colors and enhance it, or, Photoshop actually has generative AI abilities now. So I could go in and even add more things using the generative fill in Photoshop and fix any seams, like this seam that's showing up over here. I could clone that out pretty easily in Photoshop. So let's go ahead and download this one. Let's say, okay, this has potential. I might use this. Let's download it. So when I go to download, I have a choice of all these things. So what I think you should do, HDR is what this is going to eventually end up being. But there's a free converter called Convertio online that you can change a JPEG into HDR. So I don't think that downloading as an HDR is necessary. If you download it as a JPEG, you can look at it and see what it looks like, and you can open it in Photoshop easily. Then you can edit it and then convert it to an HDR before you bring it into Unreal Engine to use as a sky dome. So I would generally probably use JPEG. And you don't really need the depth map. I don't know what video it would do. This is a new feature that I haven't used. So let's just do a JPEG. And I can see that it's downloading to my downloads folder. Okay, so we'll close that. And yeah, I did 2 generations. We're still on 98. So downloading didn't count anything against my numbers up here. Okay, so let's try one more. I'm going to try one more with this prompt, and maybe I'll, yeah, that's fine. I'm going to leave it the same prompt. I'm going to try some magical realism and see what that looks like. I would look through these and see what you think might work for whatever idea you have. We'll try some magical realism, and let's try remixing it again. I'm using Model 3. Model 3 is their latest AI model. Usually the latest ones have a little bit more realism or a little bit more features than the older ones. Okay, so this one has a little bit more dramatic lighting. It is kind of colorful for a stage thing. I think colorful is okay, but I would want to be, thinking about the tone of it, like maybe it's too um, too nice looking for the scene. Although realistically, I'm gonna cover up all that heather. All that purple heather down there is gonna be gone. And we're only gonna see probably from here. So it might be okay. It does look magical. So it looks like a magical sort of scene. So let's go ahead and download that one too. I would say unless it's terrible and really not at all worth downloading, then you could go ahead and download whatever you generate. So let's go take a look at what that file looks like. So I'm going to go to my downloads, and these are my two files here. They're JPEG, so I can double click them and open them up and take a look at what they look like. So, these are the two files. That's the realism, and that's the magical realism. So magical realism has a lot more colors in it. And so when this file is wrapped on a big dome with a flat bottom, this stuff from down here, this is going to be where right here along this bottom, it's going to come together into a hole at the bottom where your feet would be in the middle of the world. And then it's got sort of like a sandy or stone circle around that. So there's got to be like a circle of flowers, and then a circle of stone around that. And then it goes into these other stones and the heather, and then this is circling right around the horizon line. And then this is all coming to a pole at the top. Whenever you get an equirectangular image like this, it goes in these sort of arced patterns as it gets closer to the top and the bottom. Again, if I go back in here and look at the bottom, I should see a circle of flowers surrounded by a circle of that gray stone or sand, followed by the heather. It almost looks like there's a road there, although this is not supposed to be that, it's not big enough to be a road. And, a good skybox is going to have a clear place where the sun is. So I can see that I'd probably want my directional light to come from this side and shoot across. So if I was actually going to use this part here for the wall, my directional light would be over there on my right-hand side, coming across. It's going to be important to sort of make that directional light fit the scene that this has. There's where the pole is at the top. Okay, so if I was going to open this up in Photoshop, I could do that and edit it. And then I would want to go to like Convertio. Let me just type in Convertio, JPEG, to HDR. And it'll take you to the Convertio JPEG to HDR. It's free. You just click on it and you would choose the file that you want to convert. Let's say I go here and grab this magical realism one and open it. And then it's going to make it into an HDR, convert it. When it's done, I'm going to download it. Okay, so we can talk more about this next time. I just noticed it's like 5 o'clock, so I have a couple of machines over there that you can do a Skybox if you want. And then I'll bring them in next time and we can do some more next time as well. I know that we don't have much time, so probably a couple of people could get on there and do a couple of Skyboxes in the time that we have left if you want to do that. So once I get that done, I can see that it went from a JPEG, which was, let me just check how big it was. That was 6 megabytes, and it went up to 92 megabytes. And I can't actually double click it to open it. It's going to open it in Photoshop because it's not a JPEG anymore. You can edit HDRs in Photoshop too. But you can do more with a JPEG in here than you can usually with a HDR file. So we'll look at a little bit more of that stuff next time, and we'll look at how to take these files, bring them into Unreal Engine, put them in the background as a sky dome, and then start to make the ground plane, place some stones in there, and we'll try to create a scene with one of these. So go ahead and is there anybody that wants to try out this Blockade Labs? Do a couple of Skyboxes? No, you guys are ready to leave? Is anyone gonna buy the $12 thing to do as many as Skyboxes as you want?
I'm always the idea of what we have here. I start racing the times.
Say what?
I have an idea of what we can do before I start racing the.
So you want to think about, yeah. Okay, that's fair. So, okay, if nobody wants to try this out today, you want to think about it, kind of come up with some ideas. I think that's not a bad idea. That's actually a pretty good idea. So maybe what we could do is we'll call this the end of class today. And I'm gonna post the slides that I went over earlier, and I'm going to, and I've already posted the script, the Macbeth script. And maybe you could do some Googling, Google Macbeth. I don't want you to make it look like other Macbeth things, really, because we want to try to come up with a little bit of a different look. And a lot of theatrical productions of Macbeth and film productions of Macbeth kind of treated it like regular witches. And that's not really how we want to sort of, these are magical beings, right? These are not just regular witches. So I want you to think of these as like not human, the Greek fates, or some kind of magical beings that in my script represent thunder, lightning, and rain. And think about, okay, well, what kind of scene is that going to be? What it needs to be something outdoors. And maybe just look at some, I don't know, some references of Macbeth, or just to give you some ideas, but I wouldn't try to make it look like, you know, Halloween witches or anything like that. We want something a little bit more unusual. So this environment can be otherworldly. It could be anything, really. Could be on another planet. It could be in Scotland, or it could be, you know, some magical world. So to do that, you're going to need a prompt. You can see I was typing in certain things, brought up this scene. You can use the technique that I use to sort of create the right space, but ultimately the way it looks is going to be what you put in the prompt. So how about if we just create some prompts for next time, and you guys can walk over to one of the machines, type your prompts in, see what happens. We can download them, and then we'll have a whole big repository of Skyboxes that everybody can use. Any questions? Okay. Enjoy your prompt writing. And make sure you have your metahumans done by next time, because we're going to bring them into our scenes. What?
I think they were exhausted a little bit.
Yeah, maybe it's a long weekend, so maybe they had fun. Yeah, I gotta take those back. I have a bag for one of them. The other one I don't have a bag for. Okay. Per se, you're going back over there?